make you a world with these two hands today. Put our love, memories and laughs in all that I create.
A strip quilt is a great project for beginning quilters. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make a striped baby blanket from start to finish. The completed size of this quilt is about 36 inches wide by 45 inches long. I'm using 1/3 yard of 4 flannel fabrics to create a crib-sized quilt. You could also use cotton or minky. Begin by cutting the 4 pieces of fabric into strips that are 4 inches wide. The fastest way to do this is to use a rotary cutter, quilter's ruler, and cutting mat, but you could also use scissors. You'll need 11 strips, so you will have 1 strip left over. Lay 2 strips right sides together so the patterns are touching. Align the edges, then pin along the right side. Sew the right side with a 1/4 inch seam. When you're sewing a quilt, it's usually good practice to press after every seam. However, because this is a stripped quilt, our seams don't intersect, so we can wait to press them until we've finished sewing the quilt top. Repeat by laying the next strip face down on top of the second strip. Sew along the right side. If you're a confident sewer, you can skip pinning and align the edges of the fabric strips as you go. Repeat this process for the remaining strips. Once all the strips have been sewn, place it face down on the ironing board and press the seams open. Then flip over the fabric and press the front side as well. Cut your backing fabric to the same size as your finished quilt top and press. I prefer to use a low loft cotton batting for my quilting projects. Lay the batting down and place the quilt top face up on top of it. I recommend using a basting adhesive spray. It will eliminate bunching and wrinkling, and it lets you skip the tedium of pinning. Fold back the quilt top halfway. Spray the back side of the folded quilt, then unfold it and smooth over the batting. Repeat for the other half of the quilt top. Now lay the backing fabric face down. Layer the batting and quilt top combo over it. Fold back the quilt top halfway and spray the backing fabric. Smooth the quilt top over the sprayed back. Repeat for the other half of the fabric. Now we're ready to sew it all together. We'll be stitching in the ditch or sewing down the center of the seams between the strips. I always like to start quilting in the center of the blanket. Roll up the right side of the blanket to make it easier to maneuver with your sewing machine. You can use contrasting or matching thread. You can use a straight stitch, a zigzag stitch, or a decorative stitch. Keep the fabric smooth and flat as you sew. Sew down each of the seams. There are many options for binding a quilt, but using ribbon is one of the simplest methods. You only need to sew it once, and you don't need to worry about raw edges. It's important that you read the care instructions on the package before purchasing. Be sure that the ribbon is washable and made with color-fast dyes. I like to press my ribbon in half first, with the pattern on the outside. This ensures that I have an even border of ribbon on both the front and back of the quilt. Place a cloth over the ribbon when pressing to prevent scorching or melting. Remember to change your thread and bobbin to match the color of the ribbon. Start pinning in the middle of one long side. Leave a loose tail of ribbon about 3 inches long, and then pin the ribbon down the side of the quilt. The fold should be right on the edge of the quilt, ensuring that you have half the ribbon on each side. Sew the ribbon close to the inner edge. Stop sewing about a 1/4 inch away from the corner. Remove the quilt from the machine. To make a mitered corner, pinch the sewn ribbon with one hand. With the other hand, pull the ribbon straight out, then down at a right angle. Fold the loose ribbon around the edge of the next side. Adjust the ribbon as needed to make a nice diagonal line at the corner. Be sure to check the back side and make sure it looks tidy. Sew in place, then continue sewing down the remainder of that side. If you feel comfortable, you can skip pinning and adjust the ribbon and fabric as you go, using the fold line as your guide. When you reach the next corner, stop a 1/4 inch away and repeat the previous steps to make a mitered corner. Stop sewing when you are about 3 inches away from the end of the starting tail. Now we'll create an invisible join. Cut a small piece of scrap ribbon. We'll use the width of this ribbon scrap as a measuring tool in a moment. Lay the ending tail over the beginning tail, placing your thumb at the spot where they meet. Place the cut ribbon horizontally right beneath your thumb. Snip the ending tail right below the bottom of the ribbon scrap. Don't cut the beginning tail. Layer the ribbon tails right sides together at a right angle. Align the edges. Sew together diagonally from corner to corner. Check your work by turning the ribbon binding. Then snip off the excess ribbon at the corner. Turn and pin, then sew the remainder of the binding in place. A strip quilt is simple and snuggly. For more tutorials, check out STYLEHAUL's YouTube Partnership Network.
Try this at home.